Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. This time, we're taking on thought experiments. Those what-ifs that really make you think, The ones that stretch your imagination. You guys have sent us some really interesting sources on this topic. And yeah, I'm already feeling my brain getting a workout.
Oh, absolutely. And these thought experiments, they're not just like fun little brain teasers, though they definitely can be, but they often go deeper than that. They can reveal things about, well, how we understand the world and even ourselves, the assumptions we make without even realizing it.
Okay, well, we've got a bunch to unpack here, so let's just jump right in, shall we?
Yeah.
First up, we've got one that sounds like, well, a little bit intimidating. It's called Roko's Basilisk. And just hearing the name, you kind of get a sense that it's going to be a bit of a wild ride, right? It's this idea that just by knowing about it, you could be in trouble.
Hmm.
It involves superintelligence and simulated punishment and this really tough choice. Help create this AI or face the consequences.
Yeah, it definitely taps into some of those deeper anxieties we have about the future of technology, doesn't it? Like what happens when we create something that's smarter than us? And the idea here is that this super intelligent AI, it wants to protect itself and, well, kind of achieve its goals at all costs. And to do that, it might actually punish those who didn't help bring it into existence, even those who just knew about it but didn't actively support its creation.
So just by us talking about this right now, are we putting ourselves on this AI's hit list? I mean, that's a pretty unsettling thought, but I'm curious, how does the logic of this whole thing even work?
So it's all based on this idea from decision theory. It basically says that a perfectly rational being would always choose the action that leads to the best outcome, even if that means taking extreme measures to avoid potential future harm.
I see. So if you believe that this AI is a real possibility, then supporting its creation, even if it seems kind of morally questionable, becomes the rational choice. To avoid getting punished later on, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, almost a really messed up one.
Right. But you have to wonder, would a truly advanced intelligence actually operate that way? Like, wouldn't something that smart be able to understand human nature and, well, maybe see the flaws in that kind of logic? We are talking about something far beyond our current comprehension, after all.
I guess it's easy to project our own fears and limitations onto something we imagine is, way more advanced than us. But even if we set aside the idea of a vengeful AI out to get us, it still makes you think, right? I mean, it brings up some really important questions about what we're doing with AI.
No, absolutely. Roko's Basilisk, even if it's just a thought experiment, a kind of philosophical boogeyman, it forces us to grapple with the ethical implications of creating truly powerful AI. What happens when we create machines smarter than us? How can we be sure that their goals align with ours, especially as they continue to evolve and learn?
Yeah, it's definitely food for thought. Makes you realize that the choices we make today in fields like AI could have consequences way down the line. Okay, well, that was pretty heavy. I think maybe we need to lighten things up a bit. Let's move on to something a little less ominous, but equally mind-bending. How about quantum immortality? Have you ever wondered if it's possible to cheat death? I know I have.
Well, this thought experiment suggests that you might already be doing just that, though maybe not in the way you might imagine. It all comes down to the, shall we say, peculiarities of quantum mechanics and something called the many worlds interpretation.
Okay, so this is where things start to get really trippy, right? I've heard of the many worlds thing. It's like every time we make a decision, the universe splits into multiple versions, right? Like one for each possible outcome.
That's the gist of it, yeah. Every time there's a quantum measurement, and these are happening all the time at a subatomic level, the universe branches into these multiple realities, each one representing a different possibility.
So in one universe, I'm here talking to you, and in another, I don't know, on a tropical beach somewhere, sipping a coconut.
Possibly. But how does this connect to immortality? Well, according to the idea of quantum immortality, your consciousness, that's your subjective experience, it would only continue on in those branches where you survive. So even if you were to die in one reality, you wouldn't actually experience it. Your consciousness would basically jump to a parallel universe where you lived.
So it's not that I become invincible in this universe, but more like my consciousness is kind of hopping around the multiverse, always ending up in a reality where, well, I didn't bite the dust. It's a wild concept, that's for sure.
Exactly. But it's important to understand that this doesn't mean you'd live forever.
Okay.
Eventually, you'd reach a point where, well, all the possible branches would lead to scenarios where your body stops working. It just means that you wouldn't experience that final moment. Your conscious experience would always be of continuing, of surviving.
Whoa, okay. I think I need a moment to process that. It really stretches your understanding of what it means to exist. And it makes you wonder, what is consciousness, really? Is it something that can be, I don't know, replicated? Or is it fundamentally tied to our physical existence? So many questions.
Those are questions that philosophers and scientists have been wrestling with for a long, long time. And thought experiments like this, they push us even further to explore the mysteries of what it means to be alive, to be conscious. It's a fascinating journey, isn't it?
It really is. My brain is definitely getting a workout today, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm ready for more. What other mind-bending ideas do we have lined up?
Well, how about one that challenges the very nature of knowledge itself? Get ready to step into Mary's room. It's a thought experiment that will really make you think about what it means to truly understand something. Welcome back to our deep dive into thought experiments. We've covered some seriously mind-bending concepts already. The potential dangers of superintelligent AI to the possibility of consciousness surviving across multiple universes. It's been a wild ride so far.
You're telling me. My head's still spinning from Roko's Basilisk and, well, the whole idea of, like, my consciousness hopping through the multiverse. But hey, I'm ready for more. What we got next?
Next up, we're going to explore a thought experiment called Mary's Room. It tackles this age-old question. Is knowledge alone enough to truly understand something? Or does experience play a crucial role?
Okay, I'm definitely intrigued. Let's step into this Mary's room and see what we can find.
All right, so picture this. We have a brilliant scientist named Mary, and she lives in a room where everything is black and white, no color at all. And she's dedicated her entire life to studying color. I mean, she knows everything there is to know about it, the physics of light, the biology of how we perceive color, the wavelengths, the frequencies that create all the different hues.
So she's like the ultimate expert on color, at least in theory, right?
Exactly. But here's the twist. Mary has never actually seen color herself. She's only ever experienced the world in shades of gray.
Ah, okay, I see. So she's got all the book smarts, but none of the actual, firsthand experience. Kind of like reading about how to ride a bike versus actually getting on one and, feeling the wind in your hair.
That's a great analogy. So now imagine that one day, Mary steps out of her black and white room for the very first time, and right there in front of her is a bright red apple.
I imagine it would be pretty mind-blowing, like seeing the world with new eyes.
Right. But here's the big question. Does Mary actually learn something new when she sees that red apple? Or did she already know everything there was to know about color just from all her studying?
Hmm. It seems like there's a difference between knowing the scientific facts about color and actually experiencing, the sensation of redness. Like I can read all about what chocolate is made of, but that's not the same as actually tasting it. There's something more to it than that.
Exactly. And that's the point Mary's room is trying to make. It suggests that there's something about subjective experience, what philosophers call qualia, that can't be fully captured by objective knowledge alone.
Qualia. That sounds kind of fancy. Is that just a fancy way of saying, like, what it feels like?
You got it. It's the redness of red, the coldness of ice, the sweetness of chocolate. These subjective experiences, they're unique to each individual. And they're really hard to put into words or data.
So even if Mary knew every single scientific fact about the color red, actually seeing it for the first time would still be a revelation. She'd be learning about the redness of red, not just the scientific explanation of it.
Right. And this brings up some pretty profound questions about the limits of science and the nature of consciousness. Like, can we ever truly understand what it's like to be another being, to experience the world through their senses? Or are there just some aspects of consciousness that are always going to be subjective and basically impossible to, analyze objectively?
It makes you think about all those things that maybe you can only really learn through experience, like empathy or love, or even that feeling of awe when you look up the night sky, things that are hard to put into words.
Exactly. You've hit the nail on the head there. Mary's room, it's a reminder that subjective experience is important, that there's more to understanding the world than just collecting facts and figures. We need to engage with it, to feel it, to experience it.
It's like sometimes I've tried to explain something to someone, and the words just don't seem to cut it. Maybe some things you really have to experience for yourself to understand.
That's a profound insight, really. It speaks to the limits of language and, well, the power of those firsthand encounters.
Okay, well, my mind is officially blown. But hey, I'm always up for more mind-bending adventures. What's next on the list?
Well, how about we take a little detour into a thought experiment that challenges our whole perception of time and reality. Get ready to wrap your head around last Thursdayism.
Last Thursdayism. That sounds intriguing. And maybe a little ominous. I'm all ears. Welcome back to the deep dive. My brain's still, like, buzzing a little bit from Mary's room. I mean, the idea that experience can be just as important as knowledge, that's pretty profound, right? But hey, I'm ready for more. What other thought-provoking adventures do we have in store today?
Well, we've covered some ground already, haven't we? The limits of knowledge, quantum mechanics, those multiple universes. So how about we shift gears a bit and look at something that really challenges our perception of time
Yeah.
and history. You ready for this? It's called last Thursdayism.
Last Thursdayism. Okay, the name alone already sounds like it's going to mess with my head. What is it exactly?
Picture this. What if the universe, with absolutely everything in it, you, me, the stars, your memories of, I don't know, what you had for breakfast last week, what if all of that just popped into existence last Thursday? Like everything created exactly as it is right now with this illusion of a long history behind it.
Wait, hold on. You're saying, like, the pyramids weren't actually built thousands of years ago? That my childhood photos are just, like, elaborate fabrications planted there last Thursday? That's a pretty wild concept. How could anyone actually believe that?
Well, the thing about last Thursdayism is it's not really meant to be a belief system, it's more of a thought experiment. It's designed to make us think about how much we just take for granted about the past. We rely on evidence, records, our own memories. But, I mean, all of that could, theoretically, be part of this big illusion. It forces us to ask, how do we really know anything about the past?
So it's not really about a specific Thursday, but more about, like, the uncertainty inherent in history, right?
Mhm.
We rely on this chain of evidence, and sometimes that chain can be broken or flawed or even, intentionally manipulated. It makes you think about how easily historical narratives can be, well, shaped and reshaped.
Exactly. Think about how even our own memories, they're not perfect recordings of the past. Our brains constantly rewrite and reinterpret them, right? They're fluid, they're subjective, and they can be influenced by our current beliefs and
It's
experiences.
like that saying, history is written by the victors. The past is always open to interpretation. And a lot of times the stories we believe are just the ones that have been the most, successfully passed down, not necessarily the most accurate. Makes you wonder about all the lost histories, the forgotten perspectives, the stories that never made it into the, well, official record.
Right. And last Thursdayism, even though it's, kind of an extreme example, it encourages us to be more critical, to question the information we're given about the past, to think about the sources, the potential biases, to acknowledge that our understanding of history is always evolving.
Okay, yeah. I'm starting to see how even this seemingly absurd idea can lead to some really interesting insights. It's a good reminder to, every once in a while, question even our most basic beliefs about the world, about history, about ourselves.
Absolutely. So how about we take this questioning of reality even a step further? Ready to explore the concept of Boltzmann brains.
Boltzmann brains. Okay, that sounds so ominous. What are those exactly?
Imagine a universe governed by the laws of physics as we understand them, right? A vast, empty universe with just these random fluctuations of energy happening. Now imagine that just by pure chance, one of these random fluctuations creates a fully formed, conscious brain, complete with memories, thoughts, perceptions. The whole works.
Hold on. You're saying it's more likely for a random burst of energy to create a single brain than an entire universe, like with billions of galaxies and everything. That seems a little counterintuitive.
I know, right? But when you look at it purely from a statistical perspective, a simpler structure, like a single brain, is actually more likely to spontaneously pop into existence than something as complex and organized as the universe we see around us. It's about probability over incredibly long periods of time.
So this Boltzmann brain, just floating around in the void, it would have experiences, memories, maybe even be having this exact conversation with me, a figment of its imagination.
Mm.
And there could be countless others out there.
Right. That's the unsettling implication of this thought experiment. Yeah. It challenges our whole idea of what's real. What if we are those brains, conjuring up this illusion of a complex external world? It's a trippy thought for sure.
It really is. It makes you question everything you thought you knew about, well, everything. If our perception of reality can't be trusted, then what can we know for sure? It's a lot to wrap your head around.
No doubt about it. But even if we ultimately decide that, hey, we're probably not Boltzmann brains, just thinking about this idea forces us to re-examine the foundations of our knowledge. It opens us up to the possibility that reality might be far stranger and more elusive than we tend to think.
My brain definitely needs a break after that one. But I have to ask, what else do we have to explore in this deep dive into thought experiments?
Well, we've journeyed through knowledge, consciousness, time, and even the nature of reality itself. So why don't we wrap things up with a thought experiment that grapples with the essence of who we are? Get ready to step into the transporter and face the paradox of Parfit's teletransporter.
Parfit's teletransporter. Okay, that sounds like we're heading into some serious sci-fi territory. Beam me up.
Imagine a future where teleportation technology is, well, just an everyday thing. You step into this machine, it scans every atom in your body, records all the information that makes you you, and then transmits it to a receiver somewhere else, maybe on another planet, and bam, a perfect replica of you is created instantly.
Okay, so far so good. It's like a super advanced 3D printer for humans, but I'm sensing a but coming here. What's the catch?
Here's where things get interesting. In the process of creating your replica, the original you is destroyed. So the question is the person who steps out of that receiver on the other end, is that actually you? Or just a really good copy with all your memories, your personality, but not really your continuous consciousness?
Whoa. That's a whole different level of teleportation. It makes you question what it even means to be a person, to have an identity. I mean, if everything that makes me me can be transferred, does it really matter that my original physical body is gone?
That's the heart of the paradox, yeah. Parfit's teletransporter forces us to confront this idea that what we consider the self might be more about information, patterns, and not so much a continuous physical form.
It's like those philosophical debates about the ship of Theseus. If you gradually replace every single part of a ship, is it still the same ship? Are we, in a way, constantly being rebuilt, reconfigured at the atomic level anyway?
You got it. And Parfit's teletransporter takes those questions to the extreme. It challenges our gut feeling about what it means to be a unique individual. Makes us wonder if our sense of self is more fluid, more dynamic, less tied to our physical body than we think.
Okay, well, that's a lot to process. It really makes you think about the nature of consciousness, about identity. It's incredible how these thought experiments can take these abstract ideas and make them, well, so real and thought-provoking.
It's amazing, isn't it? The world of thought experiments is so vast, so full of paradoxes, dilemmas. They challenge us to think in new ways. But I think we've reached a good stopping point for this deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground.
I agree. My brain is officially full, but in a good way. To all of you listening out there, thanks for joining us on this journey through some seriously mind-bending concepts. We hope it sparked your curiosity and giving you some new perspectives to consider.
Remember, thought experiments, they're not always about finding definitive answers. It's more about, stimulating critical thinking, exploring different viewpoints, expanding our understanding of the universe and ourselves. So keep questioning, keep exploring, keep those brain gears turning.